So, how you guys doing? I feel like doing a lesson right now. Let me know by watching it or commenting if you think it's a good idea, because that is one way I know what to do sometimes, and I also know what to keep on my channel at times. So you guys have more control over my channel than you might think. Because often I look and see if no one sees a video, I just maybe it's not worth it. I sometimes delete them. But let me know by watching this one if you like this kind of thing. It'd be easy and cool in a certain way if you didn't have to work, or I don't mean work as a job, but I mean if you didn't have to practice and or study to be great at an instrument, but then everybody would be able to do it and it wouldn't be special. So there's that downside to the world where you wouldn't have to practice or study, but we're in this world and we have to practice and study if we want to be good musicians. So let's practice and study right now with Shirtless Guy if you want to. Thank you very much. I'm using my E guitar, tuned to E, so you guys can tune up easily rather than having to tune to a different pitch. E, A, B, G, B, E. So there you go. A long time ago, like in 1985 or something, maybe it was 84, I don't know, somebody at the music store where I grew up, Oklahoma Music, where I grew up taking lessons, said, hey, that guy's diminishing out. And I thought, that's a cool word. Well, I like diminishing out sometimes, and I want to diminish out a little bit on this lesson. Then talk about diminished stuff, arpeggios and chords and stuff. But maybe in a way that you might learn something, because it might be different than what they tell you in the book, or we'll just have to see, won't we? So let's talk about diminished seventh chords for a second, and arpeggios, and let's see how they relate to the blues, if you can believe that. Let's pick a key like A. Let's have an A blues, and there's 4 notes in a diminished seventh arpeggio. There's only 3 of them to make all 12 notes of the chromatic scale. So if you take 3 consecutive chromatically diminished seventh chords, you have all 12 notes, such as, I just played all 12 notes of the chromatic scale. I played A sharp diminished seventh, the B diminished seventh, the C diminished seventh. There's only 3 of them, because 4 times 3 is 12. And there's 4 notes in each diminished seventh arpeggio. And they relate to the one, in blues they relate to the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. Those are the 3 primary harmonies in blues, and each of those, the 1 chord, the 5 chord, and the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord, each have a diminished harmony to them, 7th harmonic if you extend it far enough, and that makes up all 3 diminished 7th arpeggios. So there's a diminished 7th that's associated with the 1 chord. If I'm in A, that would be A. And there's a diminished 7th associated with the 4 chord, which would be D in key of A. And in other words, there's a diminished 7th associated with the 5 chord, which is E in the blues. But they're not just A, G, and E. They're A dominant 7th, G dominant 7th, and E dominant 7th. And the thing about a dominant 7th is, if you raise the root, here's an A dominant 7th. Let's turn the distortion off a little bit. Here's an A dominant 7th, the 1 chord in blues. If you raise the root up, you get an A sharp diminished 7th, which is also G diminished 7th, E diminished 7th, and C sharp diminished 7th, because they're symmetrical. And that happens to have, so there you have the diminished 7th chord that's a half step up from the root is now associated with the diminished 7th on the root. So, and when it's on the root of the 1 chord, it's a diminished 7th on B flat if you're in A blues, and that's equivalent to playing the 1 chord, believe it or not. It can be used that way, or you just play the 1 chord, or the A dominant 7th can also be expressed as B flat diminished 7th, and they both imply the same harmony. What about the other 2 diminished 7ths? Well, in A blues, you have D dominant 7th, which is the 4 chord. You raise the D to D sharp, you got a D sharp diminished 7th chord, and that represents the 4 chord or D dominant 7th chord at times. The D sharp diminished 7th arpeggio has the root, the A, which is the key of the blues, in it. So you can say that a diminished seventh on the actual tonic note of a blues is associated with the 4 chord in that blues. So A diminished seventh can really be considered a D dominant 7th chord expressed a different way. What about the other dominant diminished 7th chord? Well, in the 5 chord in A blues is E dominant 7th. If you raise the E to F, you get an F diminished 7th chord. And that F diminished 7th has a D, a B, and a G sharp in it also. So if you play a G sharp, let's say, diminished 7th chord, that can be used to express the E dominant 7th chord or 5 chord of an A blues, and that diminished 7th arpeggio has the G sharp or major 7th interval. I mean, a major 7th note in it. So the 3 chromatic ways of playing diminished 7th to make up a chromatic scale. If you're in B flat in the key of A, that's the 1 chord. If you're in A diminished 7th in the key of A, that's the 4 chord. Here D7. If you're playing the major 7th, the diminished 7th chord on the major 7th interval, that gives you a version of the 5 chord, which is an E dominant 7th. How's that apply in music? Well, let us see. There's a good turnaround that I like. I'll play it in the key of A. First, you start with an A dominant 7th. It's A. It's first string 5th fret, second string 5th fret, third string 6th fret, fourth string 5th fret. That's an A dominant 7th. And then you go up to a B diminished 7th chord, and that represents, if you can believe it or not, that represents the harmony of the 5 chord, which is E dominant 7th. So that's like the 5 chord. Right there, that's like playing a 5 chord. So you got 1 to 5, because you're going up. So going up goes up a 5th in 7th chords. It's down a 5th in triads. Figure that out later, or look it up right now and see if I'm right, but I think I am. So I go A dominant 7th to B diminished 7th. That's the 1 7th to 5 in a different way of moving it. Then you go up to C diminished 7th, and that's a different version of the 4 chord. And then cleverly enough, you slide to an A dominant 7th. You slide. Oh, I haven't talked about the frets yet. Okay, so I said the frets on this one. This one, the frets are first string 7th fret, second string 6th fret, third string 7th fret, fourth string 6th fret. That was your 5 chord. 4 chord diminished 7th is first string 8th fret, second string 9th fret, third string 8th fret, fourth string 9th fret. Finally, slide up to here. This is a repeat of the A dominant 7th chord, and that is first string 9th fret, second string 8th fret, third string 9th fret, and fourth string 7th fret. So I went A7, implied E7, implied D7, A7, and if you take the 4th string out of it, you get. You've all heard that, I think, I hope. You can play backwards. I stuttered there, didn't I? Backwards. Or forward. I should say upward or downward, really. Up or down. With all the notes. Just the top 3 notes. It's used all over the place in music. But a lot of people stop there, or a lot of people don't even know the harmony of that. They just play it by rote, but I like to know what I'm playing, LOL. Let's go up higher up on the neck, though. Let's say you're on A7, B diminished 7th, C diminished 7th, A7. Okay, it doesn't stop there. You go, the little trick I'm going to do is raise the root of here up to a B flat or A sharp. Now we have a C sharp diminished 7th. but that poses as a dominant seventh, and that's your first chord in this next pattern. The C sharp diminished seventh is a major third above the A, so you know it's got to be represent the A dominant seventh, because an A dominant seventh, actually an A dominant seventh flat 9, has A, C sharp, E, G, and A sharp. Dun, 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 dun. But this is just this. So you're just taking it's just an A dominant 7 flat 9 without the A, which makes it a C sharp diminished seventh. So that's your one chord. Up perhaps, and that frets was, I think I said it. Did I say it already? Yeah, it's first string 9th fret, second string 8th fret, third string 9th fret, fourth string 8th fret. Slide everything up one fret. Now I have a D diminished seventh, but that poses again as a 5 chord, which again is E dominant seventh. So that D diminished seventh is actually the 5 chord, expressed a different way. So I have the 1 chord, the 5 chord. Now I'm going to go up another. Oh, and that is first string 10th fret, second string 9th fret, third string 10th fret, fourth string 9th fret. Slide up again to up a half step on all the notes, and now I have a D sharp diminished seventh arpeggio, and that's going to substitute for the 4 dominant seventh chord, which in this case is D dominant seventh, because D F sharp, yeah, because it just works out that way. The D dominant seventh flat 9 is this D F sharp A C and D sharp, but take out the D and you just have, and that's what that is. So there you have it. That's the 4 chord, 4 dominant seventh chord, which is D dominant seventh in this case. And then what you do again, you slide it all up again to another half step. That's another repeat of the 1 chord, because this is an E diminished seventh arpeggio, which if you do your math, that actually can substitute as an A dominant seventh chord. A dominant seventh is A, C sharp, E, G, and A sharp, and that's what that is. Fair enough. So now it's a chromatic slither for this the pattern I just showed you. It's C sharp diminished seventh, D diminished seventh, D sharp diminished seventh, E diminished seventh. So I have 2 patterns, each with 4 chords I can do in blues, especially for the turnaround section. A7, B diminished seventh, C diminished seventh, A dominant seventh, and then the next pattern you can do is C sharp diminished seventh, D diminished seventh, D sharp diminished seventh, and E diminished seventh. And if you think that's too weird or complex to be used in music, you're wrong. Just look to Cheap Trick. He does it all the time. So, and then if you take this without the D string, you get this. So cool blues lick. The first one I showed you was this, but you can also play. And I showed you the harmony and told you why and how it does it. Let's do an example of this. It's in I Want You to Want Me by Cheap Trick. Rick's actually playing in the key of A Dorian, but then he can also make that, he can play F sharp Dorian, which is the relative major to A Dorian, but it works. So and then instead of playing A blues turnaround or F sharp blues turnaround, he plays it in D for this lick I'm going to show you, and that's interesting because D is the 4 chord to an A in the key of A. So if you're an A Dorian, you would be in D Mixolydian, and D Mixolydian is still bluesy, so why not do the turnaround in D? So instead of doing the A, or he gets to do, or, you see that? It would be, he's going to play D, or, and, so this would be D dominant 7th, E diminished 7th, F diminished 7th, D dominant 7th, and the next pattern is F sharp diminished 7th, G diminished 7th, G sharp diminished 7th, and A diminished 7th. But it's going to leave out the 4th string a lot. So instead, all that you get, and then, so. Very good patterns in blues. So what he's doing is he's rocking out in F sharp Dorian. Let's make the rhythm right. Hear that? So he was jamming out in F sharp Dorian. Back to the song. I like that. Okay, but he's just not a one-trick pony. The next trick, he's gonna play it, and then later at solo, he's gonna play actually an A Dorian. And he's gonna play the second pattern I showed you. The F sharp diminished, G diminished, G sharp diminished, A diminished. So there he's going like this. Once again. The song. So don't, I don't know, think what you want, but it's good not to think that rock and roll is stupid, because people in rock are really smart. You have to be smart to act stupid, and sometimes people in rock act stupid, which means they're really smart, because if they weren't smart, they'd be really stupid, not acting stupid, but they're acting stupid, so they're actually very smart. So. Beautiful. Beautiful to me. I like it. And not only that, I showed you the harmonies and the way to think of it, so you can know what you're playing and not just try to wing it or just practice what you know or what you've heard or what someone else did. You can make it your own. We could jam it up ourselves. Make the music yourself. You don't have to play just what someone else played. That's all just making it up from what I know. Making my own music out of it. That's why I'm not impressed by 3-year-old kids that can play all the notes fast and all that, because I know they don't mean them. I know they don't know what they're playing. I know they just have someone tell them where to put their fingers, and I don't care about that. Plus, they're gonna grow up too, and then they won't have that childness, prodiginess to fall back on, and so there's that disappointment happening to kids that can play really fast. Also, is my feeling. But whatever, that wasn't the topic of what I'm talking about. So there's some diminished sevenths there with blues. Anything else? And then I'm burying my secrets here, because these are new things I'm working on, and rather than keep it to myself and just be a hermit about it, I'm telling you guys what I'm actually doing and learning myself. So I think that's cool. Hope you guys like that. Anything else while I'm here? That was just diminished. I think there might be more to it. Let me think. Oh yeah, I had the old idea that I had the other day about the dominant seventh to one major, 5/7 to one major, or 5/7 to one minor, and that's a good thing that classical music uses. that was scales with dominant 7 without the 5th to major triad, 5, 7, no 5 to 1 major, or 5, 7, no 5 to 1 minor, moving it around. I love that. It's just called music, know your music. I wasn't even playing 4 chords with it. That's all just 5, 7 without a 5th to the 1 to the tonic, or 1 major, or 5, 7 with no 5th to the 1 minor. Since there's 12 5/7ths and 12 majors and 12 minors, in all you have 24 possible keys. You have a major and a minor on each of the 12 notes, and a dominant 7th with each of those, and so there's 12 5, 7, no 5s to 1 major, and there's 12 5, 7, no 5s to 1 minor, so there's 24 possibilities altogether. And I wasn't even playing the 4 chord, which could bring out another possibility for each one to make 4 choices overall, because you could play, if you're playing A dominant 7th to E major, your 4 chord could be the 4 chord could be G major or G minor, and I didn't play it even in this case, but it could be either one, which would give you 2 choices. You would have one choice would give you, if the 5 chord, in this case G, is major, it gives you a D major scale. If the 5 chord is minor, the 4 chord, which is a G, is minor, it gives you a D harmonic major. Which has a flat 6 in it. It's a D major scale with a flat 6. Doing that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait. Yeah, I'm doing that right. No, that wasn't right. That would be G major. G, you want... Oh, it's A. It's D. I'm trying to play D harmonic major. Oh, yeah, that's what you have to do. Okay. I'm not good at this. That's the flat 6. Major 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Yeah, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's it. Okay. That's a D harmonic major scale. that comes from having the A7 to D major, but then having a G minor to go with that. Weird sounding, huh? And then of course, if we have the major, the 4 chord is a G major, then it's just D major. Sounds a little prettier to me, but whatever. And then harmonic D harmonic major. Give A. C. Keep C. Doesn't sound too bad. How about D? You're going to get me addicted to this, and I'm going to like this scale pretty soon. How about an E? I like that. That's it in F sharp. Yeah. Okay. And then with the minors, if you have, again, A dominant 7 without a fifth, to an E minor. That's either harmonic minor, and that's if you have a G minor as the 4 chord to the D harmonic minor. But if the G chord is major, suddenly I have a D melodic minor scale. That's a little more tricky to me. If I can do it. Let's see, let's try it again. D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Oh, wow. There it is. D. I like that. Not too bad. Let's do it in E now. Wait. F sharp. Do it in A. C. D. sound too bad, but whatever. But if you leave out that 4 chord, you only have major and minor, and it's just 12 notes in a chromatic scale. There's 12 majors, 12 minors. You only have 24 possibilities. That's thus Bach's 24 inventions in something on the fugue or something, and Paganini's 24 caprices for solo violin, for instance. You know. So if you went over all the keys possible, it'd be a chromatic slither all the way up the neck and down the neck on all 12 keys with their 5 sevens and the possible 1 major or 1 minor. It'd be really boring to hear, probably. You guys don't want to hear it, do you? That's the majors. With G7 to C major. And then slithered all the way up to G major. I mean G7 to C major, an octave higher, and all the ones in between. And that's 12 majors. Now the 12 minors. Do it again. G7 to C minor, up to the higher G7 to C minor, all the ones in between, all minors in chromatic. And then all the other thing I did, you just play around with them and play scales where appropriate, and then make it sound good. Let me get a piece of rock and roll.